Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
From the world-famous Blackbird Studios, it's the Rave X podcast. And now, Rave X.
Oh, I love movie theater popcorn. Let me tell you, man. I love movie theater popcorn like fat kids love cake. Anyway, thanks for tuning into the show. The Rave X podcast, man. Episode 105, Summer Watchlist. I'm your host, Idris Elba. All right, man, I'm not going to lie. It's been a while since I did a podcast. You know, I've been doing a lot of things. I've been busy, and overall, I've just been lazy. You know, it's just been one of these times of the year where I get lazy and I focus in on other stuff. But I am back after watching a bunch of really cool movies to give you my summer watch list, man, for when you're kicking back with that very special girl or guy, I don't judge, and you want to watch a couple of movies. And so anyway, I got some flicks here. Some of these you've probably seen. They're on Netflix. Some of them are on a streaming app called Tubi. If you ever heard of Tubi, it's free. I think Tubi's better than Netflix, to be honest with you. And you can download it to your phone or your Roku Smart TV or whatever. And so we're going to start from the bottom here on some of these movies that I saw that I really think that you guys should check out. There's a movie called, it's a documentary actually, called The Most Hated Man on the Internet. And this is a story about a guy named Hunter Moore. Now, if you don't know who Hunter Moore is, he started this website called isanyoneup.com a few years back. And he sort of was the guy responsible for the phrase, or the term, revenge porn. Now, what he would do is, he would have people send in pictures of their ex-girlfriends naked or doing things that they shouldn't be on the internet, you know. Or he'd have people hack other people's phones and get naked pictures of women and put them on his website. And when you called him or you emailed him or you did whatever and said, please, you put up naked pictures of me, everyone at my job seen them, everyone at my school seen them, please take them down, he would just laugh. I mean, this guy, Hunter Moore, is the epitome of an absolute 100% douchebag. Now, since then, the website's been taken down. He had to serve 2.5 years in jail. They said he needed some mental help counseling. But you know, we have a lot of laws in this country. But sometimes things, you know, happen where the laws haven't caught up to it yet. And with revenge porn, there were really no laws about that. Like, I could take pictures of my ex-girlfriend and put them up on a website. And, you know, someone might be able to flag it as porn, but there's no law saying you can't put up pictures of your ex-girlfriend on the website. So this was kind of a landmark case. And what happened was a young girl started getting all these text messages on her phone. She starts to look through the text, and they're like, I don't know what her name was, Claire, go to this website. There are all these pictures of nude photos of you. And she's like, what? And she goes to the website, and it's like, her name's Claire Davis. She lives here. Here's her phone number. Here's her topless. Here's her this, blah, blah, blah. And as you would expect, this girl was absolutely distraught over the matter. I mean, anyone would. Can you imagine if you woke up one day and you had, 200 messages and texts and emails and all this stuff, and they said, yo, Dave, go to Facebook, there's all these nude pictures of you on there, and you're like, oh my God, really? So she found out where the pictures came from. She tried to get in touch with this guy. He just literally typed back, LOL, ha ha ha, and all these people were just commenting on her like, hey, nice boobs, hey, nice this, why don't you come here and suck my blah, blah, blah. And she told her mom, and her mom is pretty, savvy with these things. I mean, when she went to like the FBI and stuff, they said that her detective skills were better than some of the people in the FBI. And she ended up finding out who the guy was, finding out what she could do, what she couldn't do, how she could get these pictures taken down. Her husband, her new husband, not the father of the girl, Claire, but her new husband was actually a British guy who was a lawyer. And when he got involved, the ball started to roll. And eventually they did get the pictures taken down, but they didn't stop there, and that's why this documentary is really cool. She went and fought to get all the pictures taken down and to get this website shut down, isanyoneup.com. And when you see interviews of this guy, Hunter Moore, just an absolute... I mean, look, I can't think of another human being in the world who needs to get punched in the goddamn face more than this guy. I mean, he would just have women doing crazy stuff, and he would post it online, and he would say, no, I'm not going to post it. That's just for me. But at the same time, here's the weird part. I understand that if your phone gets hacked and you're a woman and you have nude pictures of you in there or stuff like that, I get that. But when you send your boyfriend pictures of you naked, you really have to come to the conclusion that at some point you guys are going to break up and he still has those nude pictures. And I'm not victim shaming. They always say, don't blame the victim. I'm not blaming the victim, but I'm saying you have to be a little bit more realistic with this. If you're 23 and you're dating some dude named Todd who you met at a bar, "What's up? My name's Todd." And he says one night, "Send me some pictures of your boobs." If you do that, keep in mind that other people are going to see those pictures. Now, it's not right to post them on a website and charge people $5 to see them. So this guy, Hunter Moore, got what he deserved. 2.5 years in jail. The website's taken down. I'm sure he got beat up a bunch of times in jail, which is good. And the documentary is called "The Most Hated Man on the Internet." And you can catch that on Netflix. Moving on. Now, this next movie I caught kind of by accident. I was just home on a Sunday looking for something to watch, and I was flipping through the Tubi app. Like I said, if you don't have Tubi, download Tubi. This movie came out in 2022, and it's called Deborah. It stars Sophie Rush, Kevin Bigley, and Deborah Ann Wall. You might know Deborah Ann Wall from playing Karen Page on the Netflix show Daredevil. She is adorable, beautiful, beautiful actress. Anyway, this movie is kind of a sort of genre of movies that started a few years back where you have a bunch of hip young 30-somethings, maybe early 30s, late 20s, and it all starts off with having friends over for a dinner party. Now, there are a lot of movies like this where a bunch of friends come over for a dinner party and then some crazy stuff happens. It's a good premise because you have a lot of characters, you have a lot of sort of contradictory viewpoints on things, In this movie, it does get political, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. This couple has a sort of Alexa type thing, like, "Alexa, turn on the lights. Alexa, order us a pizza." But their version of Alexa is called Deborah, and it can pause time and rewind it up to like 5 to 15 minutes. And you don't really know what's going on at first. They have this dinner party, and someone drops a glass of wine on the rug. And Deborah Ann Wall, who plays the lead character, and she says, "Alexa, pause time, go back a minute." It does it, and she goes over and she picks up the glass and moves it so the glass doesn't fall. And you're like, oh, shoot, okay. Now, only her and her husband know that their Alexa can do this. So something happens. Someone tells kind of like an off-color sexist joke, and the people, they're kind of getting into a little bit of a fight. They're like, one of the women, sort of a super liberal woman, says to the guy, "That's sexist. I can't believe it." He's like, "That's not sexist. You and you liberals in your cancel culture." And then Deborah says, "Alexa, pause time." And she goes back, and she knows right when they're about to talk about the topic. She goes, "Hey, anyone seen that Yankees game or whatever?" So she's trying to make this perfect dinner party, and every time something goes wrong, she says, "Alexa, pause time." But what happens is the cat walks into the middle of the living room, and somebody was going to say something off color, and she says, "Alexa, pause time." But when they pause time, the cat walks away, and she goes, "Okay, Alexa, resume time." And everyone goes, "Did you guys just see that? Did that cat just teleport?" And she goes, "Oh, shoot. Alexa, pause time. Alexa, go back 1 minute." And she kind of tries to put the cat back where it was. So it starts to unravel. And she's talking to her husband, and, her husband's like, "Give me a kiss, come on." And he's like, "Honey, sometimes I feel like I'm kissing my sister. It's so weird." And this is sort of a subplot that happens in this movie, Deborah, where, the guy's asking her husband, "Do you and your wife, get it on a lot? You guys don't seem very happy." And he's like, "No, anytime we fool around, it sounds weird, but I feel like I'm fooling around with my sister." And spoiler alert, at the very end, when everyone's yelling at each other because the dinner party goes to absolute crap, and the wife takes a DNA test and finds out that they actually are, like, the husband and wife are brother and sister, and that their father actually had another family. So it's this really weird side story that he kind of predicts in the early beginning, that he's like, every time I kiss my wife, I feel like I'm kissing my sister. She does the DNA test, and she didn't want to tell him the results, but that was the results. But anyway, so eventually they just end up telling everyone what's happening and how they've got this Alexa thing that can actually freeze time. But what happens is, anytime someone says something that someone else doesn't like, people keep telling Alexa to freeze time, The problem is you don't know when someone has done it. So let's say you're sitting there, and you're about to say something that someone doesn't like. Someone in the party will be like, Alexa, freeze time. Go back 2 minutes. And then they'll change the topic. And everyone starts doing it, and it just gets crazy. And finally, this huge fight breaks out, and someone says, Alexa, freeze time. And the Alexa thing says, no, not anymore. And the wife's like, I just wanted to have a nice dinner party. And Alexa's like, nope, I'm not freezing time for you guys anymore. You're going to have to deal with it. And one of the things that happens is you find out that the husband was freezing time to try to make out with one of the other guests. I know, it's kind of confusing to describe, but the movie's called Deborah from 2022. It's on Tubi, and it's about a bunch of young 30-somethings who have a little Alexa in their home that can freeze time. And you see how they abuse it, you see how it tears apart the friendship, and at the very end, the lead character ends up freezing time and rewinding to the very beginning of the dinner party. But one of the characters knows what happens, and she just has this horrible look on her face knowing what they have to go through for this night. Anyway, Deborah from 2022. Put it on your summer watch list. Now, this next movie I really loved, man, because I like sort of freaky thrillers. I don't like horror movies. I like movies that, like, have something freaky going on, like the one I just talked about, but they never really tell you why. Maybe in the end you find out, maybe you don't. Anyway, this movie is also streaming on Tubi. From 2017, the movie's called Radius, starring Diego Klattenhoff and Charlotte Sullivan. And you know, this movie starts off, you have no idea what's going on. A guy gets into a car accident. He looks over at the woman next to him, and she's dead, but her eyes are just completely white over, like a zombie kind of. He gets out of the car, he flags down another car, and as he gets closer to them, the person in the car, their eyes turn white and they die. Then he flags down a cop, the cop comes up to him, the cop falls down dead. Then he wanders onto a farm, and there's like some sheep and stuff. And the closer he gets to these sheep, the sheep start to die. And it's this really freaky thing. Then he sees this woman like come out of a house. And he's like, get away from me. I don't know what's going on. But anytime someone comes close to me, they die. Hence the title of the film, Radius, right? So this woman's like, what? I don't know. And he's like, no, get away. And she walks right up to him. And he's like, okay. And he tells her the story and she believes him. So they take a sheep and they tie it up. And he stands maybe, 50 feet from the sheep. And everything's fine. Then he gets 45 feet, 40 feet, 30 feet. The sheep falls down dead. So he knows he has about a 30-foot radius in which, if you get into that radius, you're going to die. And, at one point he goes walking to a diner. This is before he kind of figures out everything. And he walks up to the diner, there's all these people in the diner, and he opens the door and walks in, and everyone just, their face hits the table dead, and their eyes turn white. And eventually you hear on the news, they think that he is killing these people, like he's murdering these people. He has no idea what's going on or why it happens. And him and this woman, the only woman who's not dying for whatever reason, have to try to figure out what's going on, and they start doing these tests. They sort of have this, shack that they kind of stay in so that no one comes close. But then at one point the cops come over. They kind of track him down, and she's telling the cops not to go in, and he's begging the cops not to go, and eventually the cop goes in. He falls down dead. It's a crazy movie because he can't get help because anyone who comes close to him dies, man. And I'm not exactly sure what it was that caused this thing. From 2017, the movie Radius. Definitely something you should sit down and watch. Freaky but not gory, but boy, it is definitely one of these sort of independent film thrillers that I really got a kick out of, man. Anyway, moving on. Now, this next one is kind of a no-brainer, man. I love this show. You love this show. It's unfortunate that we don't get every sort of year updates of this show. It comes out when it comes out. It's called Black Mirror. You guys know about Black Mirror from 2023. This is the new season 6 of Black Mirror. You only get about 6 episodes. Black Mirror is kind of like the Twilight Zone, where even when it's not amazing, it's still pretty damn good. The episodes you should check out, Joan is Horrible and Mazzy Day. Now, Joan is Horrible. It's almost hard to describe. A woman's going about her life, and she sits down with her boyfriend to watch a show on Netflix, and there's a show on Netflix called Joan is Horrible. And there's an actress, Salma Hayek, who's playing the person who you're watching. And pretty much everything that she just did in her past day is playing out on Netflix. And she starts to realize this, So she does something crazy, and next thing you know, it's on Netflix. And it turns out that she can't get it taken off of Netflix because when you hit agree to the terms of services for Netflix or Hulu or Tubi, you agree that they can listen in on your phone and film you, and if needs be, make a TV show out of it. It was the most Twilight Zone thing. I mean, Rod Sterling would be proud of this. So Joan is Horrible is one of the sort of standout episodes for this year's offering of Black Mirror. There's also another one called Mazzy Day, starring Zazie Beetz. And this one is crazy. Zazie Beetz plays what they call a stringer, right? Or a sort of person who runs around with their camera trying to photograph stars or if something bad happens. And you find out that there's a star, kind of like a Lindsay Lohan type person. Nobody knows where she is. There's like, we'll give you $50,000 if you can get a picture of her. And you think that she's gone to this cabin in the woods to detox, but she's chained to a bed. She's sweating like crazy. The paparazzi ends up getting in there, and they're just savages, man. They're in there just taking pictures of her. She's naked. They think she's trying to kick heroin and stuff. But the lead character, Zazie Beetz, who you might know from Deadpool, has a Domino from the Deadpool movies. She's starting to realize that these paparazzi are horrible, man. Did I say paparazzi? Paparazzi? However you want to say that. Like the Lady Gaga song, paparazzi. Anyway, she's starting to realize that it's one thing to take a picture of someone walking down the street. It's another thing to shove a camera in someone's face when they're trying to kick heroin and they're naked in a cabin looking horrible. And she's looking at them like they're like wolves, Which brings me to my next point. The Lindsay Lohan type starlet isn't there to kick heroin. She's there because she's a werewolf, and she has to chain herself up and lock herself in this cabin because the full moon's coming. And they start taking pictures of her. She starts turning into a wolf, and she starts tearing apart the paparazzi. Now, Zazie Beetz kind of was telling them to back off her, so she doesn't go for her right away. Anyway, they run, they hop on a motorcycle, Zazie Beetz and her friend who's got cameras, the Lindsay Lohan chick turns into full-blown werewolf, and she's tearing apart the paparazzi. They get to this little diner. They start trying to barricade the door, and there's a cop in there, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "It's coming for us! It's coming for us! You gotta barricade the doors." And out the window, they see this wolf, like this big, evil-looking wolf coming, And the wolf ends up coming through the back door and just starts tearing people to shreds. Eventually, it goes after Zazie Beetz and jumps at her, and Zazie shoots the wolf chick. And she falls down and turns back into a person. And she looks up at Zazie and she says, "Just kill me. Just kill me." And Zazie won't do it. But she puts the gun in her hand. And the wolf chick, who's now a person, puts the gun to her head. And you think Zazie Beetz has sort of turned the page as far as like, this is horrible, taking pictures of people in their worst moment just for money. But as the starlet puts the gun to her head, Zazie holds up her camera, man. It was really kind of like, damn. She can't resist getting these pictures because of how much money she's going to get. I'm not going to spoil the rest of it. The other episodes, I did just spoil that for you. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. But that was a crazy episode because you kind of start to side with the Zazie character. You think she's had a change of heart, and you realize at the end she's just as bad as everyone else, And that's where Black Mirror kind of excels at, is showing you what happens in the future, like where we're at now and where we're going to go in the future as sort of horrible human beings. But definitely, man, you've probably already watched it, but if not, check out this year's Black Mirror. I really dig it. And let's move on to what I think is the number one streaming movie out there right now that you absolutely positively have got to sit down and watch, man. All right, man, this next one I didn't even know was out. I saw the first one a few years back, sort of like pandemic times. It's called Extraction was the first one. This one's called Extraction 2 with Chris Hemsworth. So Chris Hemsworth plays like this, I don't know, CIA special agent guy, like badass Jack Reacher type guy. And he's really good at his job, man. He's the best. And boy, let me tell you, I was watching that Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary on Netflix where, check it out, it's fine. And I was just looking at how old Arnold Schwarzenegger is, and we're all going to get old. But Schwarzenegger is just responsible for some of the greatest action movies of all time. I mean, who doesn't love a good Schwarzenegger movie? Predator, Terminator, Running Man, Total Recall. And I thought, he's getting old, man. He's like 70-something. When he goes, do we have a successor? Who's next in line? Extraction 2 with Chris Hemsworth, boy. This movie is action-packed from start to finish. I mean, he's got to rehab himself because at the end of Extraction 1, he's pretty messed up. So he rehabs himself. He gets back in the game. Idris Elba pops up to give him a mission. You don't know who he is. He's kind of playing like the Nick Fury, Sam Jackson character, like, hey, I've got this mission for you. And if you take this mission, we'll give you a bunch of money and we'll help you out. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. So he gets his team together, Chris Hemsworth. They have to rescue this Russian woman and her kids from this prison. And, of course, the Russian guy doesn't want her out of prison because that's his wife. She has information on him, the Russian mob. And they do this thing where, I didn't even realize it, there's like 6 or 7 minutes of Chris Hemsworth going through the jail, fighting people, shooting people, almost getting jacked up himself, falling off of stuff, breaking through walls. And it's all done in what would appear to be one solid take. And the way they can do this now is so amazing. It's like the camera is hovering behind him on a drone, and it will follow him through a room, out the window, down a fire escape, in a car. They'll shoot the car blows up, he jumps out of the car. There are no cuts in this. The camera just kind of will turn and show you the bad guys and swing around and show you Chris Hemsworth. And there's this one scene where he rescues the family. They're up in this like sort of penthouse apartment trying to hide from the Russian mafia, and the Russian mafia comes up with a helicopter and starts shooting through there. Anytime there's an action scene or a fight scene, it goes to this solid one take. And you couldn't do this back in the Schwarzenegger days. They didn't have the technology, But now they do have drones and cameras set up here and there, and cameras, GoPro that's probably on someone's head filming everything. And Chris Hemsworth does this thing where he's fighting this Russian guy. In every fight scene, you can feel the impact. You can feel the thud, And there's a lot of like going with momentum. Everything makes sense in this fight scene. Like, he's punching this guy's punching him, the guy pulls out a knife, tries to stab him, he blocks the knife, shoots the guy in the leg, the guy stabs Chris Hemsworth in the shoulder, and then at one point, he punches the guy in the face, shoots him 3 times in the chest, punches him in the back of the head, and they're by some workout equipment. So he hits the treadmill, which is on. So he goes down, hits the treadmill shoots him out of a glass window, he does a full somersault, and hits the ground, and you're like, how do you even come up with that stuff? You know what I mean? It's so crazy. Like at one point they're being chased by these guys on motorcycles. So the good guys are in 3 different armored jeeps. So the bullets are just bouncing off the windows. But the motorcycle guys have these little detonator bombs that they can ride up and slap on the side of the jeeps. And then the jeep blows up. So they get one of the good guys, but not Chris Hemsworth and the family. So at one point, the motorcycle rides up to slap a bomb on the back of Chris Hemsworth's jeep. But his buddy swerves over and knocks the motorcycle guy into a tree. And right before he's off frame, it blows up. Because, he did arm that little bomb in his hand. So if you knock him off the thing, he's going to blow up. So it all makes sense, It's not this, dumb stuff where, you like Fast and Furious. You watch Fast and Furious, none of that stuff makes any sense. There's a fight scene on a train. There's helicopters. There's fight scenes on motorcycles, hand to hand. At the very end, I'm going to spoil it for you guys, so if you don't want to know the ending of Extraction 2, tune out for about 10 seconds, but trust me, it's not going to ruin the experience. It is still the greatest action movie of all time. He's fighting this Russian mob guy, and this Russian mob guy is tough as nails, and they're in this warehouse industrial area, man, and they're using everything they can use to fight each other. Like at one point, the Russian guy hits Chris Hemsworth in the head with a box of nails, and Chris Hemsworth is all bloody, and Chris Hemsworth picks up a wrench and swings it at the guy, and the guy stabs Chris Hemsworth in the leg with a crowbar or something. Anyway, Chris Hemsworth wins because he's the good guy, but it's what they call an Pyrrhic victory. He wins, but it takes everything to beat this Russian mob guy. And they're both laying there, and the Russian guy's not exactly dead yet. And he says to Chris Hemsworth, "I will never stop." And Chris Hemsworth just picks up his gun without even looking. They're both laying on the ground. He just picks up the gun and shoots him in the head and drops the gun, man. And that type of stuff it's kind of brutal. But what this Russian guy did to this woman, to the kids, he was going to kill his own son to get at Chris Hemsworth. But that ending, where you think, oh, he didn't kill him, maybe he's going to take him in, He probably was, until the Russian guy says, "I'm never going to effing stop," and he just goes pop right in the head. Anyway, boy, I could talk about this movie all day long. One of the best action movies I've ever seen in my life, man. Extraction 2, starring Chris Hemsworth and Idris Elba, streaming now on Netflix. Wow, kids, was that not an awesome list? Man, so I'm going to run down again, okay? The most hated man on the internet, Netflix, a movie called Deborah, Tubi, Radius, also on Tubi, Black Mirror Season 6, and of course, Extraction. Check all those things out, man. And do me a favor, while you're checking that out, my band Choose Your Power. You know how we do this right at the end. I'm going to plug my band. My band Choose Your Power just put out a video for one of our best songs, man. The song is called Black Sea. Now, I originally came up with the idea for this song. I was on a huge ocean liner out in the Black Sea in the Mediterranean, and I didn't know that I had a fear of open water. And boy, the sun went down. You couldn't see the shore anymore. We're on this huge Titanic-like boat, and I'm looking at the water, and it just looks like oil. And I'm getting a little freaked out and I had to go and sit down. But I started humming a riff in my head, which later became Black Sea. Now, my singer-guitar player, Brian, he then put words to it, man. This is, maybe about 2-3 years ago when I first joined the band Choose Your Power. And he asked me, anything for words? And I told him sort of why I wrote it and how I wrote it. And he put his idea to it. It's one of the greatest songs ever written. Black Sea by Choose Your Power. Wow. Action-packed show, kids. And that's going to do it for me. I got stuff to do. Hey, do me a favor. If you want to download this episode, go to ravexmusic.bandcamp.com. That's right, ravexmusic.bandcamp.com. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, kids, do me a favor. Remember this. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. My name's Rave X. Enjoy yourself!
That was the Rave X podcast. Be sure to click like and subscribe. For podcasts, new music, and all things Rave X, go to youtube.com and search Rave X Music.